Hey everyone, welcome. My name's Ryan and this is Developer's Garage, where we explore new technologies, new patterns, new practices, or anything that we, not necessarily new, anything that we want to learn and learn more about and be more efficient at. I saw a minute ago, I'm actually competing with Jeff Fritz for Twitch time, so this will be interesting. He is an awesome Twitch streamer, and if I wasn't streaming right now, I'd be watching him. So if you're watching him, I don't blame you. But starting just a little bit late. The chat's been running, everything's been going, but it's still getting a couple technical things set up. So I had to run to my daughter's school today and put in eye drops. So she has to do them 4 times a day for 10 days. So we've only got a few more days left. But I do it right after my morning stand up with my team. I run over to her Mother's Day Out program, give her the drops, and run right back. So it kind of stand-up's at 11. Once stand-up was over, I had to drive. So it took me a little bit longer to get set up this morning than normal. But we're going, and so you get to see a little bit of the behind the scenes that I try to do before we get things going, before I get this going. So I'm going to go ahead and switch on over to some code so you can see what I'm looking at. All right, there we go. That looks good. So you can see I'm looking at my agenda down there. It's still not quite right. I've not had a chance to fix the font issue that we've been experiencing with that. It's the default font is just too big. I need to be able to adjust it. So that may be. Let's see. Explore Razor Comp More. That's not going to fit all just yet. That's fine though, I think. I can't put. Does it let me do a? Is it a multi-line? No, it's not a multi-line. Maybe that's the way to solve this. Is actually make this a multi-line text box. That way it kind of wraps. Because that's one thing it's not doing. It's not wrapping right now. So we'll see. Maybe we'll dive into that later. Explore Razor components. I'm just gonna. It says more, but I'm just gonna hide that. All right. I think that's good on my agenda for today. I did do some updates to my GarageBot. Unfortunately, do I want to do it now? Do I want to go ahead and just maybe we do that? Maybe we do that live on stream. So I'm gonna veer off just a little bit. I'm gonna do a little bit more setup here. I'm gonna pull down my latest GarageBot code. Because there are some cool new things in it that I'd love to explore and maybe get up and running. Actually, no, I didn't get to finish that. But we're going to go ahead and look at the latest one. A few more things on there that we can use that will be beneficial for you, the viewer. And hey, Jeff, there he is. He's lurking. One-handed typer today. Yeah, I've been there. It's kind of crazy because I have actually 2 keyboards, one sitting out here that I can use to type in the chat window, as well as and also monitors the chat window, and I've got another one, a big one here that I'm using for everything else. So I'm gonna just update our project part real quick. Working on, this actually is not going to be beneficial because I'm going to shut that down here in a second. I'm going to switch over to full view for just a second as I go and grab the latest version of my GarageBot, which will give you a few more commands that you can use. So, not quite sure if it exposes everything, what it exposes on here, but all right, so there's some repositories. Let's see. Oh, that's because it's not in there. It's in the actual Dev's Garage repo, I think. Oh, no, I know exactly what it is. So yeah, I do need to hide for just a second. Hey, Lorena, welcome. Glad you could join us. Hopefully you're having a good day today. I notice it's a little windy here in Tulsa. Unfortunately, that means the cold front's coming in, which means all this lovely spring weather we've been having is going to be going away for a little bit. So working on right now. We're just actually doing a little bit of technical setup. Running a little behind on that. I figured why don't just show everyone what I go through to setting up this stream. Just a little bit of it. And then one of these things here in a second is actually going to allow to go into our first item, which you can't see because I'm on full screen. I'll get to it in just a second. Will allow us to begin the stream really. All right. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to some code here. So you're going to see, I'm here on GitHub. So one of the things that I was talking with one of our user group members last night at the meeting. So if you're watching this live or later and you did not have a chance, and you're in the Tulsa area, and you didn't have a chance to attend our user group meeting last night, that's okay. You'll get to attend it next week. We had an awesome time last night hearing about, I will say, the gentleman that put on the unsafe C sharp code, I think is what it was. But he, an astronomer at heart. I mean, he showed us how he basically does some satellite tracking with just a bare camera, which was pretty cool. And the fact that he knew the mathematics to be able to do all of that, that's what blew my mind. Just looking at this, thinking about the stuff that he had to go through to create that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's more math than I probably ever wanted to know. Math that I want to know. So that was one of the things I did not like about the computer science degree at Oklahoma State University was I had to have 3 years of calculus, or maybe that was at the community college. Anyways, 3 years of calculus just kind of fried my brain for mathematics. So I'm done with math. When my son starts getting into the higher ones, maybe I'll start trying to remember some of that stuff. But I've got a few more years for that. All right, so intro to GitHub. So I was talking to one of our members last night, and he is a hobbyist developer. So he does aircraft parts. He's an aircraft maintenance person by day, and then when he's not, he is a developer. But he does a development part, but sometimes these other concepts that we may take for granted, other people may find difficult. And so one of the things I was like, you know what, we'll talk about GitHub real quick. So GitHub, at the basics, is just a free place to store code, repositories. It's what we call a repository. It's just a place that we can store our solutions, our projects, and give it a home that we can either make public or private. So that's one of the things that when Microsoft bought it, they actually opened up the free private repositories. I think there's a limit to 5. But you get free private repositories, so you can go out and you can put code that you may not be ready to let everybody see or may not want anybody to ever see. If you're running a small business or something and you want to store your client's code securely, that way it's backed up in the cloud effectively. So if your computer crashes, I used to have multiple hard drives, but it's a great place to store code. It's also a great place to collaborate. So one of the beautiful things you can do is you can just take somebody's repository, fork it, which means basically create your own copy inside your GitHub account and do all the changes you want. And then when you're happy with those, you can then send a request, we call it a pull request, back to the original project owner, and say, hey, I made these changes and I would like you to accept them. And that's one of the things we're going to look at here in a minute, is actually accepting one of the PRs that our good friend Jeff Johnson 68 made for us. So right now I'm actually doing a little bit of setup finishing, so I'm going to look at some of that. So you can see here, I actually have this GarageBot, which is a private repo. And I only did that because I am not quite sure that I have not put something in there that I need to hide or remove. I think I have. I think it's all gone, but I'm not 100% sure, and so I'm hiding it. That way, if I have exposed some key, that I don't expose it to everybody. That's usually the danger, is you have some private key that is specific to your hosting environment or something you're connecting to that is your key and is identified as you, and you don't want to tell anybody. So you usually put in a secrets file, which I think I've done with GarageBot, but I'm still not 100% ready to expose it to the world. So I'm going to go in here. So we talked about forking and cloning repos. So that's what this right here will allow you to do. So when you go find the project you want to clone, which is basically going to make a copy of it, bring it down to my environment, my machine, and let me work on it from there, I can just take this URL, and within Git, I can run some commands to clone that repository. So I've already done this. So one of the problems is the account I'm using on my development machine is the Dev's Garage account. GarageBot lives in my personal account, which is why you see here. And because it's private, it's hidden from Dev's Garage. So here's what I do. I'm just going to download it as a zip file. And that way I can just unzip the code into my folder, and then I can run my command to build this. So that's what I did last week, but I did it beforehand. Now you're going to see me do it today. So let's see. I put you in, so I'm going to cut this. I think I have you in Dev. There's the DNUG website. Maybe on the D drive here. Sandboxes, I bet is where I have. There it is. So, yep, let's see there. You can see my zip file from last week. I'm going to paste there, and I'm going to replace this one because I don't need it anymore. And then I'm going to extract it. And this is going into GarageBot. We'll leave it as master right now. I'm not sure if there's some files that may be locked in there because I'm running a GarageBot right now. Well, let's go ahead and kill that. So there we go. That should free up any files that were locked by it. And we want to... I'm just going to copy and replace here. Replace all these files. Fun stuff, right? And then we're going to see if this is going to allow me to open with VS 2019. I think this is it. We'll find out. Again, on this stream, I try to use some of the latest tools. That way you can see how they run and how they work, and see if maybe you want to upgrade to them. So I'm running the latest and greatest, the release candidate for Visual Studio, which, if you are not aware, it actually goes live in, I think, just a week. Let me take a look here. I actually have it on my calendar that tells me when the launch party is. In chat room, if you ever have anything to say and you want to say something, go ahead, just shout it out, spit it out, ask something. If you want to correct me, you want to answer the question I'm just asking, go for it. Let's see. All right. There's that. Ooh, I have a dentist appointment next week. That ought to be fun. You know what? We may just have to Google this because I'm not seeing it pop in on my calendar. I want to say it's the first week in April. Yes, April 2nd. There it is. April 2nd. Visual Studio is having a launch party, meaning, hey, you don't have to be there. It's actually a virtual launch party. They're going to have a full day's worth of demos about the new Visual Studio and all the features of it. If you were at the user group meeting last night, you saw Steve Daly's talk on Xamarin. One of the things you saw also was in Visual Studio 2017 how painful it was to build your Android application. That's something that the Visual Studio team and the Xamarin team took tremendous feedback on. took tremendous feedback. They took that feedback and took it very seriously, and they spent a lot of time improving that build performance. And I believe they said they've actually got it down to 50% faster than what it is in Visual Studio 2017, which, if you have not done it, it takes quite a bit. So it'll be twice as fast. Is that the best way to say it? I don't know. So it is something that is being improved all around. Okay, so we have GarageBot running here. I should be able to build him. So there are some things I added in here. So I added some cool commands that would allow you, the viewers, to basically notify me when you want me to see something. If I'm not paying attention, you could basically say, hey. Unfortunately, I don't have that working just yet. I'm almost there. Well, I do have it working, but it all has to run on my streaming machine. And if you've been on this stream before, you notice that if I try to do too much on my streaming machine, my streaming suffers. The connection, the bandwidth starts suffering. My machine starts trying to do too much, and so therefore my stream suffers, lags, and drops off sometimes. So I try not to do too much on there, but we're almost to the point to where I can do that. So let's go ahead. I think I just need to build this project, and then we'll run it. All right, build succeeded. Oh, you know what? One of the other things, I don't know if this is in 2017 or not, where you can now add sounds to your builds when they succeed or fail. There's build and run. And let's see. Not that. I want to look at build success. In general, .NET Core, nope. Build and run. Prompt, yes, yes. Formats. Webpack, web projects. Okay, come on. Where are you? Let's see. Let's look up build here. So this is where the build stuff is. There's that. Build and run. Yeah, I expected that to show up. Let's build project. Performance. Visual C++. All right. So now I'm actually going to have to look that up because that bothers me a little bit. VS 2019 build sounds. That a lot of things are there not related to the Flyers and the Penguins. Okay. For VA sound, build success sound. Wow, Bing, you are giving me a lot of stuff that doesn't pertain to what I'm using. VS 2019. Visual Studio. Let's just do build success sound. Here you go. Daily.NET tips. Okay, so did you know you can play a sound when build succeeded or failed in Visual Studio? I did not know that, but evidently you get to, so you go to sounds. So let's try this. Sounds. Skype. Microsoft. I'm honestly surprised you can't change this from within Visual Studio, but maybe that's a feature that's coming. Build succeeded sound. So we want to play something here. I have some cool sounds, you know, that I think would be awesome to play. If I can, they're not on this machine, but they can be. All right. Windows Media, that's probably a good one. Good place to store this stuff. Let's see, what sounds like a good goofy yelling? Would that be a good sound to play whenever the build succeeds? Or fails. I think that'd be a good one for when it fails. Let's see if it's going to allow me to drag all the way over here. No. All right. Let's do it this way. Home. New folder. Call it Visual Studio Sounds. Put a couple of these in here. Oh, it's not going to let me drag and drop across environments. Well, that's not fun. But I can paste. So you can't drag and drop, but you can paste. So if you didn't know, I have a streaming machine that actually is remoted into my development machine. So that's what you're seeing here. I'm moving stuff from, moving stuff from my streaming machine to my development machine. So we've got that. So let's go back to the sounds. So on succeeded, let's browse here. And Visual Studio Sounds is what we called it. And it only allows you to do WAV files. I don't have any WAV files. So I'm going to have to fix that. But what we can do, we can use some of the existing sounds just so we could get some fun stuff. Let's test that out. No, I don't like that one. So hopefully everyone's hearing that. Yeah, it looks like you should be able. Yeah. Oh, that was really soft. Yeah, no. Now I feel like I'm back in old Windows. Lorena agrees, yes. Yeah, these do take me back. Wow, I've never heard that Windows startup sound. Okay. We'll use that one. For failed, what are we going to use here? No, that's, my mind doesn't go with that one. We'll go with that for now until I get some better waves in here. We'll get some of these MP3s converted to something that this can do. So now that that's applied, I should be able to come over here, Visual Studio, rebuild. I don't know if it's going to require me to start. May require me to restart. That's okay. So we'll go now. So we got GarageBot running. I'm just going to run him headless without the debugger. Say headless, I actually still have a window, but oh, that didn't work. And you know why? It's because I don't have my secrets in here. Oh, actually I know what that is. That's Signal R failing. And I don't, trying to think, is it gonna, let's find out if these still work. See if it's actually still running them. Yep. Okay, cool. So we have some of the new stuff in there. So you can see some of added a few commands here. Alert, celebrate. Alert and celebrate. We're not going to be able to hear today because I don't have the second part, the Signal R piece running. Requires a web app to be able to play the sounds, and it's just not functioning yet. So let's go ahead and let's set up the project we're going to be working on. So let's go back to, so we are working on Tulsa Denug website revamp. 37 minutes later, we are now beginning the actual thing while you're probably here. But you know what? That's okay. We're all here to learn something. All right. So we can go ahead and open our new solution here. All right. So one of the first things, let's go look at our PR. So one of the things that our friend Jeff Johnson did for us last weekend was he created a pull request for the changes he was doing on the basically the web API, adding the ability to get the leaders for our, which one are you working on, Jeff? The leadership page. To demonstrate, let's see. Add a leadership page to demonstrate retrieving and displaying. So let's see what we've got here. So once we get a pull request, it's going to show up here, and I'll get a notification, and hopefully we're going to do them all on stream. If it's not there, then I will we'll get it in there somehow. I may do it outside of the stream if we start getting a lot more pull requests in. We may start doing them outside of the stream, but I'm going to try to do everything in here. So what Jeff did was Jeff actually created an entirely new project. So Jeff created us an external web API that our application would hit, and then to get the information. When you're doing enterprise development, this is actually a great pattern to follow. If you're a small single developer and you're worried about some kind of cost, you don't want to spin up 2 sites, this is probably something that you would you want to use the controllers and stuff that exist within your website. And that's something Jeff and I talked about last night as well. But I think what we may do is we may just go ahead and accept this in and talk about what we see and talk about some of the changes we can do for it. So if we look down here, so I just want to scroll through here and look at some of the stuff that Jeff was doing. So he's returning a get leader. So he's got basically using the repository pattern here. So he's got a repository using the unit of work pattern. So I will say I am not fully up to speed on some of these enterprise patterns, unit of work specifically. I've never been very good at implementing these. So that's something we may look at here in a second is what's the guidance on using the unit of work pattern. And Jeff, if you're listening and you're able to type one-handed, maybe you want to tell us, why you chose why you and your company or your team chooses to use the unit of work to do some of this stuff versus just straight calls to the framework or entity framework to save your work. We've got a JSON file. So one of the things we discuss is that we're going to make it work, make it right, make it fast approach. The simplest way is to make this work is to use a static JSON file instead of a database project, which we will get to though. That is something we will be doing as we move along. Once we get things up and running, looking decent, we'll start taking some of this stuff and we'll move it out to a more easily updated area and maybe create some admin pages, do some authentication, allowing those updates to be done from the web portal. Here we have let's see, what is this? This is going to be the startup file, which actually does our configuration of the web host. Some model files using the shared kernel. Okay. So Jeff started reading some of the documentation that our fearless leader, Sean Whitesell. If you're listening, Sean, thank you, sir. I've got to get you a little sound. So Jeff says we use central control mostly for things like setting the data source. Okay, I can see that. So let's see if I heard that. The way I interpreted that is you have a repository that could point to any number of data sources, meaning that I could have a dev data source, multiple types of data sources that could contain the same data or same thing, but it's just a central entry point to go and kind of configure that and access that data as well. Let me know if I got that right, Jeff, because I may have just butchered everything you were thinking. Shared kernel was done incorrectly. We'll need to move that. That's okay, Jeff. That's all right. That's what we're here is learning. Because we'll look at that. That's part of the onion architecture that Sean Whitesell was referencing in our Discord the other day. And we'll take a look at that. We'll pull that up here in a second. One of the things I want to do. Mark off our intro to GitHub. Make sure I'm updating. Keep me honest there, chat room. If I'm not marking things off as I need to on there, let me know that, hey, you need to fix this. I need to go and mark that intro to GitHub off. So we did that. Man, looks like my stream is lagging just a little bit. My apologies for that. These skip frames seem to be the cause of it. It backs up. I had it set up to where hopefully I was doing some low latency that we wouldn't experience that, but it doesn't appear to be doing that. All right. So review changes. I'm going to say approve. Thanks for the contribution, Jeff. We appreciate it. So now I can actually merge this pull request in. So these are the other things I'm not fully versed in, a squash merge and a rebase merge. Chat room, if you have any thoughts on those, I just usually create a merge commit and basically put all those commits in there. I think a squash will basically take all those commits that Jeff made, if you have multiple commits in there, and squash them into one, and then add that to the history of that branch. Rebasing, I've tried to look at rebasing and understand it a little bit. Not something I fully understand. So I want to keep the history here for now. We're just going to create it. We're going to merge this pull request. Confirm the merge. All right, so we merged into the dev's garage. Ah, okay, so merge accepted. Thank you. All right, so let's come back over here. So the one thing that Jeff did, Jeff actually branched from my add clean architecture projects. So in the future, if you guys want to work on it, let's work from the just go ahead and branch from master. Most of the stuff that we do should be in the master. I think I did all that in there, and let's work from that. I'm going to try and keep these clean. I don't know what that's the branch that Sean was having me work off of the other day. But what we need to do, we actually need to create a new pull request for this to actually merge this into our master branch. We want to go from there to the master to be able to work off there. Now, when we start getting into CI/CD pipelines, we may take a little bit different approach on this. We may actually create a development branch and work from there. You know what? I may actually do that here in just a second. We may just say we're always going to work off of a dev branch and merge always into the dev branch. And then when we have something good, it's tested, where it's validated, we will merge that into the master, which then would kick off our CI/CD pipeline and put it out into the world. Not too far behind, maybe about 10 seconds. That's a little longer lag than I wanted, but maybe a little longer. Okay, man. I have to get some wireless headphones soon. Chat room, if you got any suggestions on wireless headphones, Bluetooth, let me know. I may be looking for some to get rid of some of these wires. So let's see what we got here. Migrate. What do we call that? There it is. Migrate work done on getting leaders to our master branch. And you know what? I'm going to take this to master. And then what we'll do is we'll actually create a new branch for the development. Create pull request. Nice thing, no conflicts. It should merge, go quickly. Confirm. All right, so there we go. And now I'm going to actually delete this branch. That way we don't end up with that again. And then let's go back to our code, and we'll actually go into the develop branch again, and I'm going to delete that one. It's missing some things there as well. Let's see. Edit. That's not what I wanted to do. There's got to be a way in here for me as the person owning this to delete this. Onyx Prime created initial project and solution. Is this owned by somebody else? Potentially. This could be owned by my alter ego. Oh, wait, here we go. My branches develop. We're going to go ahead and delete that. All right. Let's come back over here to code. There we go, one branch. We're down to the good stuff now. Find or create a branch. We're going to create a branch called dev. So if you want to help contribute, Lorena, Jeff, anybody from the Tulsa.net user group, please go ahead. We're going to work off the dev branch. create branch dev from master. All right, there we go. So we looked at our PR. Okay, Ryan, time to keep us honest here. Look at the PR. Checked off and done. There we go. Okay, so the other thing when I was talking to one of our members last night was the fact that, you know what, not everybody's a command line person. You may like working on the command line. It kind of takes me back a little bit. When I was a kid, that's all we had was command line. Windows 3.1 was my first graphic user interface, or GUI. So I stuck with the command line for quite a while, all the way through Windows 98, I think. When I went to XP, I stopped using the command line. It was right about that time, I think, that the command line became a second-class citizen to Windows. Windows became the primary operating system. Before that, I think, it was either 98 or it was 2000. I can't remember which one did it, but everything used to run on top of DOS. And that's what I grew up using, and I was very comfortable using it. I think XP, was when I fully said, you know what, I'm going to embrace the graphic user interfaces and just use them. And I did. Now I'm coming full circle, going back to the command line, this time within PowerShell. Here's PowerShell. So let's go ahead and check out. I always forget this. Oh, I got to put git in front. I know that. Let's look at this, -h. So I'm going to change my branch. I don't want to create. I want to. Let's do git check out master. I know that one. Git pull. Go ahead and make sure our master is updated. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up. Going back to, there's actually, if you don't want to use Git to manage your repositories or your local repository, there is actually GitHub Desktop, which, let's see if I have that on this machine. Yes, I do have it. So there's a GitHub Desktop app that you can download from GitHub's website. And it's going to allow you to manage all that stuff that I do from the command line inside a nice interface here. You can see actually one of my other demos I was working on. It's actually probably connected to the wrong account. That's okay, because I'm not going to use this. But for those who want to use it, there is one out there. It's called GitHub Desktop. You can go download it. Again, it's going to allow you to pull down those repositories from GitHub, manage them fully within here, while still writing your code inside Visual Studio. So, all right, so let's come back here. DOS. XP was the first consumer edition of Windows not to be based on MS-DOS. Thank you, Jeff. Yes. I couldn't remember which one it was. It was a sad time for me because I always loved DOS. I still do. I just don't use it as much. I may have to expose my kids to life without a graphic user interface. See how they fare. Would I be considered a mean dad if I did that? I don't know. Yeah, probably would. They may have to nix that idea. So, all right. Let's get started here. So, check out dev. I think that will. Okay, so there we go. You can see it switched to the branch dev. Git pull. I think everything is up to date, already up to date. So, all right. So now we can actually do some work. Let's reload this. Let's see what Jeff did. So Jeff started basing his stuff. So the first thing is we want to do, may let Jeff do. We'll look at this, the controllers. So when I'm developing my APIs, I follow a specific pattern. I never return an iron numeral like this. So my preference is always to return an action result. What that's going to give you, that's going to allow you to set the proper HTTP codes. It's going to be more of a RESTful type service. For your kids, hack laptop, $299 plus tax. The only laptop that encourages 8-plus-year-olds to code by inviting them to hack. Hey, that's awesome. Where'd you find that at, Jeff? I've actually thought about working with my son to build a Raspberry Pi machine. Hack laptop. Maybe that's what it's called. Jeff, you got me curious here. Hack laptop. Let's look. Hack computer, the everyday laptop that helps kids learn to code. I've never heard of this. What you get, an everyday laptop? Where does this have to be? So it's an Asus laptop. Okay. Intel Pentium. All right, 4 gig DDR4. That's pretty good. 14-inch screen. They don't need anything big. 14 inches is probably big enough for them. Facebook ad, I think. Yeah. 64 gig storage. That's plenty. What is the operating? It looks like it may be using the Chrome OS. New hackable content. That is awesome. I'm going to bookmark. That is so. Put this link out here for everyone. If you want to go see, you want to help get your kids started, or you say like, hey, I want to start hacking on this. This is pretty cool. I don't know about this. We'll have to see how this is. All the tools you need: Chrome, calculator, YouTube. This is really all my kid does need. He might disagree with that one, but Steam's still a thing, huh? Skype, I don't know about Skype. He doesn't need that. But pretty cool here. What people are saying. Founders of Girls Code. This is very cool. I have not heard of this. So it is a Chrome OS. I'm surprised they don't. Oh, Endless OS. I've not heard of this. This is a new one. Of course, I don't know all the operating systems out there, but Endless OS. Let's see what this is. The Endless OS operating system is simple and easy to use. Very interesting. Jeff, thanks for sharing, man. That's pretty cool. Now I've got to convince the wife to spend the $299. We'll see how that works. We'll see how I get along with that. I'm definitely wow. Okay. All right, back to where we were. We were looking at Tulsa Denug website. So, talked about it. Things I like doing. I return typically an action result. Actually, an I action result. You always want to try and... One of the new things you can do, or the best things, to make sure you always try to use interfaces. The less concrete types you use, the less you are coding in dependencies. Coding in dependencies. Meaning that I am now, when I did this... Wubba lubba dub dub. Yay, endless. Jockreys, welcome to the party, man. I have not. Jockreys, have you heard of Endless OS? I've not. I action result. Always code to an interface that allows you to change the concrete implementation without having to change all those references. Endless OS is a Linux-based operating system which provides a simplified and streamlined user experience using a customized desktop environment forked from GNOME 3. Awesome. I've heard of the GNOME project simply because of Xamarin. We heard a little bit about it last night. The founders of Xamarin started off working on GNOME, and seeing that Endless OS is a fork of Linux. Okay. Well, it's a Linux OS forked from GNOME. Now, it looks very similar to Chrome OS, but I've not used Chrome OS very much anymore. But it sounds like a great school laptop for kids. As schools start getting to more and more wanting to their students to use computers and teaching them from the beginning, a lot of schools are providing laptops. And I think this would be a great option. I know a lot of them provide Chromebooks now. Some of the school systems in the Tulsa area I know are doing that. It would be a learning curve for me. I think it'd be kind of cool. I always like learning something new. So when you return an action result, the cool thing is they've got a bunch of helper methods for you already. So if I want to return basically what we call a 200, it's an OK. Basically means everything worked. Jalcree says he's been following for a couple years. Awesome. So there we go. We've got that. And so the other thing we get with this is if we have an issue or an error that happens, we can return bad request, which is going to be I believe this is a 404 under the hood. Returns a 400. We can return, I think there's, let's see, you can do new piece. Oh, come on. I used to do this quite a bit. I hate when I get on stream and I forget what I want to, there's status codes. I think it's new status code result. That's not the one I want. And that's just going to be the status codes that get returned. So you can see all the different status codes here. So I could return new status code result and give it a .201 if I wanted. And that doesn't work either. HTTP. I forget what the helper method is for that. It's an action result. No, not that one either. All right, we're gonna go to our good friend Google to help me out here with the status codes. My action result. Return types. It's perfect. There's a way you can actually specify, say, I want to return a specific one. The number, so the helper methods you have, you've got bad request result, not found result, OK result. There is a way to return one specifically as where you get to specify the code as well as a message to go along with it. View iAction result to see members and methods. Peak definition. Execute result async. Nope. Because that's what we want to return. We want to return something that gives us that, but it's that helper method we want to find. Maybe it's this created action. I typically don't use anything outside the standard helper methods that's provided, not found, server error. The action result types represent various HTTP status codes. So that's action return types. Yes, I got that. Uh-oh, my machine has decided it's going to disconnect. Let's see if it connects back up here. I hate it when that happens. Yep, that's kind of what I feel like every time that this happens. I don't know why. Let's see. Doesn't appear to be coming back. So let's go. Let's connect back up here. And just in case something happens, we're going to go here so I can type in some passwords. Make sure I get them all right here before we go back to our coding. The machine is there. The machine exists. Looks like I'm still broadcasting. There we go. No. There it goes. And all right, we're back. Okay, back up and running now. So I typically use these. I will use the helper methods. I'm not used specifically the where you can do the specify the return type in the action result. So you could do that there. Typically, I just return an action result. And then I would return the OK. There is a way to create one. I just don't remember how to do it, and I'm not finding it. But that's typically how I handle this. Because what we want to do is when we create an API, we do want it to be RESTful. We want to always think a little bit ahead that there may be future use for this. Maybe the fact that we do get down the line and we want to separate it out. All the stuff is there. We're really coded to handle it already. It's just now pointing our front end to a different back end. Again, it's not a hard change. So, all right. So let's go. Let's dive into this repository a little bit. So Jeff is using this. So I'm unfamiliar still a little bit with how if you could inject this. So I like the idea of injection. So basically when we're in here, we can use the existing, when we configure our services, we can then potentially do, I'm going to bounce real quick here. So this is basically an iLeader repository. So we can actually copy this. And I'm not sure if this plays into, would work with this pattern and for dependency injection. This is not one I typically use, but what we can do, services.add singleton. If you want it to be singleton, and what that means. So when we say add a singleton in terms of dependency injection, we mean we only want to create one instance, and if something needs it, everyone's going to get the same instance of this object. So if it does have any kind of state, or if it has any kind of configuration set up, if it's holding a connection to someplace, so we're not creating hundreds of thousands of connections, if our app expands out, we want to use a singleton. And so you can specify the type, and I think we said iLeader repository. Then in here, you can actually specify the implementation you want to use. So you don't have to do this. You can let the, I think I'm in the right project. Yeah. You don't have to specify this if you want to let something else handle that. Oh, what are you doing, hands? So here what we have is our we're configuring our dependency injection. We're using the one that comes built into ASP.NET Core. And it's configured here in the services. And what this is going to do is if we have a controller, so if we have our leaders controller here, new unit of work. So I can now do something like this, repo, and I could say this. And now what's going to happen is when it creates an instance of this controller, because our system here will do that for us, it's going to say, hey, it needs a implementation for iLeader repository. It's going to go search its container. You'll hear that referred to as the IOC, the inversion of control container, which basically stores all these instances. You can have very complex container systems. You can have very simple ones. Visual Studio or ASP.NET is going to use a more simple approach. There are some out there. You'll hear Unity, Ninject, are two of the ones that are coming to mind right now. I've used both of them. I actually like this one out of the box much better. And so what this does, this allows us to now control the implementation. So if I want to, for testing purposes, want to test my leader repository or test my controller and make sure it's returning the correct status codes, I can now unit test this and pass in a mock version of our repo and have it return a bad, either throw an error or return a good result, and then make sure our controller is returning the right HTTP types, making sure we're returning a good HTTP result. All right. Those are just a few of the things, little nuggets. If you've not worked with ASP.NET Core before, or still learning, or you've not messed with dependency injection before, definitely something I would encourage you to start looking at and trying to phase it into your development process. It's going to save, especially when you start doing unit testing, it's going to save you tons of work and time down the line. And so we have, all right, so that takes care of our leaders controller. So we can do the same thing with some of these others. Repository factory, that's actually static. I'm just going to work down the line here. So I want to go look at this unit of work that we just looked at. So I told you it was one of the patterns I'm not fully familiar with. So I'm going to go to definition on it so we can look at it. Default role type, repo type, sorry, my bad. All right. Okay, I like this. If I start getting too simple on everyone, if everybody's like, hey, we know this, some of these topics, just say, move on, Ryan. I'll move on. But I'm going to try to explain some of this stuff. Two constructors here. You can see both of them type of unit work, but one of them doesn't take any parameters. The other takes a string repo type. So the one thing that will throw dependency injection for a loop is this, because it doesn't know which constructor to use. So when you're doing DI, dependency injection, you want to try to avoid this as much as possible. Sometimes you can't, and that's okay. Typically, I'm not worried about some of this stuff if it's stateless. If I don't have to manage state or have to worry about any kind of state inside of it, and I may never need to mock any of this, concrete types are okay. like property or POCOs, plain old CLR objects. They have no code inside of them. There's no reason to mock one or put that into a singleton, unless it's containing some kind of configuration. Then that kind of makes sense. Because I have done that. I have created a configuration object and injected that into my container, which then can be used, passed down to all my different layers to configure it based on, depending on the type of environment I'm in. It can get a little complex, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Hey, Rambling Geek, glad you could join us. I think this is the first time I've had him on here. Rambling Geek is another live coder. If you've not, he is from across the pond. He's over in England. I've caught his stream a couple times, so glad to see him in here. He does some pretty cool things. A .NET developer as well. So, all right. So we're working here. The unit of work. The repository type. So let's see. What does that get us? So you create a get leader repository. Let's look here. Love it when the phone calls go up. Hey, Ancient Coder. Glad you could join us. Oh, I love those bots, Rambling Geek. Once I can get a couple more streams under my belt, I'm that much closer to being the affiliate and be able to add bots. I've got a local friend who is a graphics guy, and I've got some cool ideas, I think, for some emotes that we can add to the stream. So, kind of excited. I'm loving those, man. Good job. Let's see here. And for those you new to Twitch who have not been on Twitch before, those emotes you see, you can add those. But streamers do get to create their own custom ones, and they can set them to where I think everybody can use them, or you can create them for subscribers. If you're, hey, there's Jockeries, and oh man, I hate that. You look down, lose your train of thought. If you are a Amazon Prime member, the awesome thing about that is you are also included into Twitch Prime. You can Google that. You can go and add your Twitch Prime account, and that allows you to, for free, subscribe to one channel. If you subscribe to the channel, then you get some extra things like their emotes, or if there is any other offerings that the broadcaster is providing, you get access to those. So some cool things to explore in there. If you're not a Twitch Prime or not a Prime subscriber, then you will. You to subscribe, you just have to pay, I think, $4.99. I can't remember. All right, so we're looking at our new page here. So we are working with ASP.NET Core 3 Preview 3. We are on the bleeding edge here. Looking at doing some Razor components. So that's kind of what we're looking at. One of our contributors here on this from our user group has created a pull request and is doing some of our work for us today. So we're looking at that. All right. And we're exploring some of the patterns he implemented. All right. So we got the unit of work here. And in here, call the leader repository, which then just returns us an I repository, which uses if we've got it, return it. Otherwise, go get one and then return it. Basically creating a single instance of it. A singleton pattern, kind of what I'm seeing here. Get leader repository, so we're using our factory. Go to implementation. So basically, you're allowing yourself to support multiple repositories and basically return the type that you want. Cool. And we go to our new JSON repository. I twitch in real life. Does that count? Yeah, you know what? It does. So, Jockeys, I'm telling you, if you can twitch in real life, you can twitch, you can code and twitch at the same time. I'm betting you. I'm thinking maybe we need to see a little bit of Jockeys live coding here soon. Oh man, I gotta have those sounds ready.
Just do it.
That's all you got. Just do it. You do your first one, you're gonna be hooked. I promise you. And then it's trying to find that time. Cool thing is, I'm hoping to get my son in here. I saw Rambling Geek a couple times have his son on doing a little. I don't know if you're doing Roblox or if you were doing Minecraft. I was kind of had one eye on you, one eye on work. So basically, we get our leaders. We're reading from our DAO, which is our leaders JSON. And you know what? Let's do something here. Let's build this and run it and see what we got. Ta-da. And of course, you know, the sounds. We got to get those sounds working. I will get that. Go ahead and say, I'll get that. I think I may just need to restart Visual Studio. Working on it. Yes. All right. MC my very first stream. Nice. Rambling Geek, did you just do that, or are you going to do that soon? Roblox on our last stream together, and he now has his own channel. Awesome, congratulations! I think. Now I did hear there's some stuff going. Is this broadcasting stuff that's going on in the UK? Is that going to affect you and your son and all that streaming, or you think you're going to be pretty unaffected by that? Get no. Leaders. That's all I need to put on here. And there we go. And that's how simple that is. So we're returning a JSON result. May have to check config. Was set to work on my setup. Hey, it's working just fine, Jeff. I know my stream is a little behind. I've got to figure that out. Should have launched Web API app first, then website. Oh, the website too. Let's do that. All right, let's launch this puppy too. There's a way you can also set up launching multiple projects at the same time. That way, if you do have these dependencies, you don't have to do what I did. Who knows? That is EU law, and we are meant to be leaving. We'll carry on until we can't. Hey, more power to you, Rambling Geek. Hopefully that... I will have to change that config. Hopefully you guys aren't affected by it. I know it's a crazy time over there. I only get to see just a little bit of it on the news. I can only imagine what it's actually like being there. I saw the big demonstration from this past weekend. That was quite a few people. Hopefully, I'm just hoping everything works out. Solution config. All right, Jeff. I'm going to close those. Where did it open? Let's just stop these. Okay. Ya-da-da. Solution config should be set already. Make a website default project and run solution. We can do that. Let's look at that. So Jeff had that right idea. Oh, where did you go? There we go. So right now it's set to a single. Let's do multiple startup project. Start that and start that. It's so exhausting. Politicians playing politics with people's life. That is no fun. It's crazy. We see that more often than not, especially in, I don't want to say especially in Oklahoma. We see it a lot, that politicians making decisions that affect not really them. And we saw it in the U.S. when the government shut down. If you click on that link, you can see the J5 stickers. Yeah, not that. All right, so we got that. We got that set up. Pardon me, I got multiple things going on around me. I've got to turn off notifications. Kind of distracting a little bit. Okay, so now we can start multiple projects, which is cool. That's what we want. One thing I do need to set, though, is our website. Let's see, is it in here? Or if it's in the components. Website data service. So we created a website data service for us. Aha, there we go. So it's expecting 44346. I don't remember where we were at. Let's go look. I don't think it was doing that. I think it was at 5 something. That's okay. We can fix that. This one right here. Or, yeah. Okay. Shut that down. All right. Start that back up and see it working. All right, so this is, there it is. Look at that. Love it. First, last C, title F. Not sure what those mean. All right. Cool. It's working. We got it. All right. So let's look at a couple of things we can do to improve this. So our data service is using this right here. So what we can do is we can actually do our app settings.json. So one of the things with this latest and greatest stuff is the web.config is not here anymore. It's not there. We use app settings.json now. So we can actually use here web API URL. And then we'll go over here and paste this in. Control V. All right. Now we actually have it stored in kind of our configuration. If we look at the startup on this project, where is it? I think I need to services.add. Is it in here? hang on one second, folks. It may not be in here. It may be. It may already be doing it in here. No. So let's use our good friend Google in here. Oh, hey, we're already in ASP.NET Core. Tutorials. Let's just look for app settings. Nothing in app settings. App settings. Web API config should not include the leaders part. That should be tagged on by the service. Okay. So JSON ASP.NET Core. So, all right, so here about configuration. You can have sections, and so we want to inject I configuration. That's the piece I was looking for. And then from there, we can actually get some of our values. So that's adding there. This is the piece I was looking for. If we have different JSON files we want to go ahead and inject in there, we can do that. Interesting. Oh, we're going to leave it like it is. It's for command line configuration. Switch mappings. Environment variables. Cool different ways we can actually set up our fig. We're just going to use app settings.json, generic one. And so what we can do here, or actually here, I want to make sure this isn't, okay. CTOR, little shortcut. So I do like using snippets. So CTOR is a snippet just for creating a constructor for your class. That's all it is. And we can say, whoa, not that. I configuration. Microsoft extensions. Yep, we wanted to add that. Again, I've got to get Karnak up and running so you can see my keystrokes. And you don't hear me say I'm doing Control-Dot to bring up that little menu to let me tell it to do certain things. So we need a place to store this. Configuration config. This .config. You're gonna find this is my preference on the naming convention. I'm not a big fan of using underscores. I don't know why. For me, it brings me back to Visual Basic and a lot of legacy code bases that I've been in that I've not wanted to be around for a lot. But I've kind of adopted this pattern here where I use the same variable name. So you'll see that a lot in my code is that they're the same. And I use the this to indicate I want within this object, not within the method scope. That's really what that's doing. This is what's differentiating it, saying I want this to reference here and this to reference here. And now we could say this dot config, and actually here config is not needed because inside this method scope there is not a config. So it's just added fluff. And so I could say get value, and it's going to want me to do going to say string. I don't know that I need to say string here, but we're going to find out if this works. I'm pretty sure this works. We'll set a breakpoint and we'll find out. That's the best way I find to get things done, to figure it out. Ancient Coder loves using underscore. I talked to a guy at my old company who's been developing longer than I have, and I asked him, so why do you do that? And I come to find there's a reason. Back when you were getting your IntelliSense, everything was alphabetical order. And so if you had a variable that started with an X or something, then you had to scroll all the way down. It was a way that I found developers, the reason I've been given is they use it so they can take all their private variables and pop them to the top, was really why I heard they were using. Ancient Coder, if that's why, awesome. I'm not sure if there's any particular reason you started using them, but I'd love to hear it. All right, so our config. So we did get something. Providers. Let's see if we get anything off of this. And there we go. So now we've basically injected our configuration. We're getting out of hard coding what some of my peers like to call magic strings that exist throughout there, and you can start consolidating them into one place and making them configurable, easier to update. So that's one of the big goals that I have here, is to basically little tips and tricks, if I can provide some through what experiences I've had. So there's something I mentioned, legacy code bases a second before. I was reading something on Twitter this morning where somebody talks about being let me find this because I don't want to misquote it, because I think it's kind of an important thing as a developer, especially if you are new and you may get stuck with some of these updating legacy code bases, which is what I did early on. I spent a lot of time updating legacy code bases. Actually, in my last job, we had a lot of legacy code bases we were migrating over. And so when working in somebody else's code base, so I'm just going to read it verbatim. And this is by @CoralineAda. So this is working within legacy code bases. She says, so I have a couple of observations. Firstly, when you're working in someone else's code, you need to act like a proper guest. Think twice before you do or say something, and try to anticipate how your actions will make your host feel. Would they be inclined to invite you back? If you came into someone's house and immediately started criticizing the layout of the house and how they decorated it or their furniture, do you think you would be welcome? Secondly, don't mistake the time that it takes you to understand the architecture and prevailing design considerations as a measure of the legacy system's quality. It's kind of a little, I don't want to say a rant, because it's a great thread. Legacy code equals money for the brave. Oh, and that's true. But so I've been guilty of that. I have gone into a lot of people's code bases, and I start criticizing what were you thinking when you did this? Why did you do that? Why would you even consider doing this? And I have my peers around me going, yeah, why? What's going on with that? And yeah, I didn't take the time to remember that this is somebody else's work that they put their hard time, blood, and sweat into. And they may have been new to development, and they may not have been aware of everything that's going on. And so that's just something to keep conscious when you're going back through those code bases and looking at it, and you start getting that feeling, why would somebody do that? Remember, we were all new. Like Rambling Geek says down in the chat, that he always feels like a new dev. So we need to keep that approach. We need to keep that learning mindset going. Say, you know what, we need to try and understand what they were thinking, what they were trying to do, and stop being so critical of what they did. because there may have been reasons why they chose to do it that way. Honestly, a lot of these legacy programs, at least the ones that I've worked on, are ones that people were under they were under the gun. The thumb screws were twisting. They had to do what they had to do to get it done and get it out quick. And when we have to get under those pressures and time constraints, we tend to compromise the way we would want to write the solution. And so I'm trying to take a better look when I look at other people's code now and that feeling of I'm a guest in their home. You know, I may not like it. I may not agree with the decisions they made, but they probably did. Sometimes people are just trying to get things working and never go back. That is true, Rambling Geek, and you find that a lot of projects, especially in a consultancy. You make those compromises, and you're like, we'll go back and fix them. If the client is not willing to pay for it, you're probably not going back to fix it. So it's definitely one of those things that, as a team lead now, I am trying to keep my eyes on and make sure we're not compromising too much, because we are under a budget and time constraint. So that's just kind of my soapbox for the day. Now let's get back to some code. So I want to come back up. Jeff says, I will put repo type in config also for next update. Awesome, Jeff. That's great. Legacy code rocks. It's a chat by a group called Corgi Bytes. Andrea is amazing. Cool. Now, Jockeys, is that a podcast, or is that it's a chat by a group called, got me wondering. Let's use our friend Google here. I want to say I've heard that before. LegacyCode.rocks. Jockeys, I'm not sure if this is what you were talking about. Maybe. I don't know. It's about dealing with legacy code. So this may be what you're talking about. So my stream is running a little bit behind. So I'm about hopefully not too far ahead of you, but hopefully this is probably it's Slack chat. Ooh, a Slack chat. So I don't do Slack too much. I spend a lot of time in Microsoft Teams, Discord now. Slack seemed a little overwhelming to me, especially with all the other chat apps I've got, Twitter, Facebook. But it is something, I do have a Slack account because there are a lot of groups, user groups, community groups out there on Slack, and that's where they like to work. All right, back to code. So we have some updates here. So I think Jeff has kind of got the kind of getting some good tips on some updates he can make. So we got the website data service. Are you dropping frames? Stream jumps every now and then. I am probably dropping frames. Yes, I am, Rambling Geek. I do have it set to low latency, which is probably why you're seeing it jump rather than stop and buffer. What I've been trying to do is control the amount of lag in between me and you, so my chat doesn't get terrible. I had one instance where it was a couple minutes behind, and it made using the chat room just almost unbearable. I had to basically stop, kill the stream, and bring it back up and run it. There we go. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm not sure why my machine's running hot today. It's like I get a Streamlabs. I use Streamlabs OBS for streaming. It's like I get an update and it just, all the updates just fail sometimes. So, I don't say they don't fail, but they cause my machine to run slower. So probably I need to notice whenever it does an update and basically reboot the machine at that point. All right. So let's go back to this. We got our Razor pages. What's your upload? I stream at 30 frames per second and use HW encoding. You know what? I don't know what I have this. I have it set at defaults, honestly. Let's see. Video. I know you guys can't see this. I stream at 30 frames per second, so I do that. And you use the HW encoding. Let's see what my encoding is set at. I'll put scaled. It won't let me. If you can, maybe better to run from cable. Yeah. That is certainly possible. So I am running, everything is run over wireless. So I have good days and I have bad days. The problem is I don't, in my office, which kind of weird, my office is actually will be my daughter's room when she gets older and potty trained. So I used to have an office downstairs where I actually have my network box. I have all my networking cables run into one spot, into an office or into a closet, and I had everything set up and run for there. And then when we had our daughter, Mom was like, you know what? She needs to be close. So it's like, okay, the office then moves upstairs to the guest room, and her room becomes my old office. So I'd have to, I know I've got one in here. It's just a matter of finding it, running the cable, and going downstairs to the box and making sure I have the right end terminated and plug it into the router. That is a good suggestion. Thank you, sir. I'm write that down real quick. Okay. All right. The other thing is I have to make sure I have an open port because my Surface Book does not have a dedicated US or a dedicated Ethernet port, and so I have to run an adapter. And right now I have a couple different things plugged into it, and I'm run out of USB ports. So I have to see if I can find an open one somewhere. All right. So back at it. I'm actually getting ready. I'm running out of time because I think yes, I have a meeting at 2 p.m. Central in about 12 minutes. Fun times, you know? I love streaming in the afternoons, though. It's a nice break from the workday. So, all right. Actually, I think I'm at a good stopping point for exploring some of the updates we can make to the pull request. Jeff, I hope you're able to get some good stuff out of this. And, you know, some of the updates you can make. Hopefully those who are going to help us contribute to this site, making it better, have got some good things coming out of it. I will go ahead and, did I get the dev site? Nope, that's not the one I wanted. There we go. So let's do our get status. So, all right, controller updates. Rambling Geek, Microsoft Surface Book. Oh, no, come on. My fellow streamer helping me out here. Let's see what he's got. MacBook, Surface Book, Notebook. Oh, I like that. Is it available in the US? That's the big question. So this let's take this, let's bring this to a public view so it can recognize where I'm at and say, I'm sorry, this is not available in the US. Let's Google that for the US. I love it when they combine stuff like that. That is awesome. Yeah, one of the other things, Randomly Geek, that you posted that you use on your stream that you were using to hold your little 7-inch tablet above your screen. It was only available. It was not available in the U.S. You could only get it in the U.K. I was like, oh my gosh. What I ended up doing is I actually have an old Surface Pro. I think it's actually it's not a Pro. It's a Surface 3 that I'm actually using to hold my chat, which sits below my monitor, which is why you see me look down just a little bit when I'm reading. All right, so there it is. Awesome. I'm going to keep that up because that's something that is going to help me out quite a bit. Yes, I love these little tidbits. Love these little things to help make the stream better. All right, what was I doing? I got sidetracked. Oh, man, squirrel. All right. Click on Deliver in United States on the right in Amazon. Well, thank you, Lorena. Let's go back to that. Is this the... have it open over here. Amazon.co.uk. See if that gives me what I want. All right, on the right. Oh, there, look at that. Delivered to United States. I'm in 74134 if you ever wanted to know. Deliver outside, so that's actually a valid UK. So this is actually going to send it from the UK to the US. Probably better to, hey Jeff, thanks for joining. We'll see you next time. I'm actually getting ready to wrap up here. So we'll catch you next time. I won't be at the user group meeting next month. My son's actually has a spring program, so we'll have to I'll have to catch up with you guys on the streams and stuff. Mike Jolly, I'm late. Guess we have to start over. Oh, I'm sure my employer would love that. Thanks for joining. We're actually wrapping up here. We did some work here. We took a look at our project we have here, which is basically revamping of the Tulsa.net user group website using .NET Core, ASP.NET Core 3 Preview 3, and using Razor components, not Razor pages. So they're acting a little bit more like, if you're familiar with Angular, modules. That's the best comparison I can come to. So we had one of our viewers create a pull request, which we accepted in, and we were going through looking at some of the updates that he can make to that. And so Jeff Johnson 68, he is going to make those updates. I'm going to let him do that, and we will take a look at it next time. So I think that's everything I got, everybody. I want to say thank you, and good night, good afternoon, good morning if you're watching me video on demand. Everyone have a good day. Thank you.